Hi, I'm Michael Smith for Nevada Trails. Tonight I have a very special show. I have Martin Griffith back again to teach us about the Applegate-Lassen Trail he did. This one is 175 miles, and with all the hiking he has done, which has been a lot in his lifetime, says this is the one to choose if you're going to go hiking.
Yes.
Thank you for coming back.
Thank you, Michael. It's great to be here. I'm going to get to talk about one of my favorite outdoor subjects, the Applegate-Lassen Trail. And my friend that you can see behind me there, Jeff Stewart, he and I did he and I did a hike of the main California Trail, a 6-week, 650-mile hike in 1991 in the summer. And so we thought, well, we swore off all desert hiking in the summer.
And you're still friends.
We're still friends, believe it or not. It was tested out there. But this one on the Applegate-Lassen Trail, we came up with a bright idea. Hey, why don't we wait till the fall? So it was still authentic. A lot of the immigrants came through in the middle of September, so we waited till the middle of September of 1999. And I'm going to tell you, he and I, we've hiked the entire Pacific Crest Trail. We've hiked, that's on the west coast between Mexico and Canada. We've hiked the entire Continental Divide Trail between Mexico and Canada and the Rockies. And this hike, Applegate-Lassen Trail hike in Nevada, I'd put up there with any of the best stretches we ever hit. And what it is a combination of history, authentic history, and just unspoiled landscapes. And there's a reason why Congress in 2000 protected this Applegate-Lassen Trail, 150-mile stretch of it in northwest Nevada. There's a reason they protected it as a national conservation area, and it's because it's spectacular. It's, I don't know, it's just the beauty of it all. It was still a challenge. Let me tell you about the immigrants, just give you a little history of it. When the immigrants hit the Lovelock area in 1849, the Covered Wagon Pioneers, when they hit the Lovelock area, they had a choice of routes. They could continue on with the standard routes up the Truckee River or the Carson River, and then later began an alternative route called the Lassen Trail. And it went way out of the way. About a third of the 30,000 or so 49ers took it. But what it did is it cut to the northwest, went through the Black Rock Desert, then went up High Rock Canyon, and then it cut over to Surprise Valley, which is just north of Cedarville, California, crossed into California, went over the Warner Mountains at Fandango Pass, and it hit this lake called Goose Lake, which is near the California-Oregon border. And there they had their choice. The Applegate-Lassen Trail people, that trail opened up in 1846 as a way to get the pioneers up to the Willamette Valley. So some of them could go up there, and then the others, like I said, could go south down to the Chico, California area on the Lassen Trail. Well, Jeff and I went from where the trail branched off, the main California Trail, at what is now the Rye Patch Reservoir, or in the immigrant times it was known as Lassen Meadows, and then we ended the hike at Goose Lake. So we did 175 miles over 18 days, and just every day was something splendid in the way of scenery, history, and so anyway, why don't we get to our next shot? That's us at where the trail broke off. You can still see an occasional immigrant grave along the Applegate-Lassen Trail. This is the Susan Kuhn grave, and it was broken off there, the original one. So a group came in and put a new one in there, I believe in the 1990s. But anyway, there were hundreds of pioneers. This is a testimony to the difficulty of these trails west. And the problem with the Applegate-Lassen Trail, like the main trail, is that they all hit waterless stretches. And we're going to hit the waterless stretch up here ahead on the Black Rock Desert. But if they had the water, they wouldn't have had the problems. But their oxen died by the hundreds and thousands out there because of the lack of water. So we'll get to our next shot. And one of the thrills for Jeff and I in doing this hike in 1999, we did it on the 150th anniversary of the Gold Rush. And for more than half the hike, we were on the exact itinerary of a great immigrant diarist by the name of Israel Lord. And his journal was one of the best we've ever seen. It was so detailed. And anyway, after Israel Lord decided to take the Applegate-Lassen Trail here and branch off, he climbed this volcanic peak here where I'm pictured, and the view behind me is the foreboding landscape of the Black Rock Desert. And this would have been about 20 miles to the south of the Black Rock. But I'm going to tell you, you can still go up to this volcanic hill that Israel Lord climbed in 1849. And we climbed it 150 years to the day he did, and you can still feel really small out there.
I would think so. That picture's awesome.
It's just total emptiness. The only thing that you can see out there, you can't see it. It looks like a toy because of the scale of the land. There is a railroad that goes out there, but it's way out there, and it seemed like it just, it doesn't really matter that much. But all the other land there, you can just see it's totally unspoiled. Mm. So anyway, we then pushed to the north from this point. After seeing the same view that Israel Lord enjoyed, we'll get to our next...
Well, as far as Israel, where would you get his diary from?
It's been published, and a good friend of mine, Don Buck, who's involved with the Trails West group, which has marked the trail. And by the way, just like on the main trail, they've also marked the Applegate-Lassen Trail.
Well, I saw you had the book from that one as well.
Right. They put up markers about every 7 miles along the Applegate-Lassen Trail, detailed instructions how to drive out and see these stretches of trail. That's how we were able to piece the trail together over about a 2-year period for this particular hike.
Now, Trails West, they're a club out of Reno, aren't they?
Out of Reno, Nevada, nonprofit organization. I believe they've been active since the 1970s. And they took over a great group that was in Reno known as the Emigrant Trail Marking Committee that was headed by a Walt Mulcahy and a Everett Harris, who did an exceptional job of marking the trail from the Lovelock area over the Sierra Passes. And then Trails West came in and eventually took them over, and now they maintain all the markers on the main trail and the Applegate-Lassen Trail.
So if you want to volunteer, you could probably track down Trails
West. You could do a Google search under Trails West Reno. They have a website there, and it also explains how to purchase their guidebooks.
Now, the guidebooks, and it also tells you how to track down these diaries.
It tells you how to track down these diaries. Israel Lord's diary, you might even be able to get it through a bookstore. But anyway, we got a copy of it, and I'm going to tell you, it was just so detailed. The land that he's describing, every day you're walking by.
Because that last picture sounded like you joined him.
Yeah, we did. We joined him there.
You sound like you're in the same spot he was 150 years ago.
We did. We felt closer to his time, to 1849, than we did to our time, 1999. That's how it just... there's no fences out there to distract you, no telephone poles, no modern, paved roads.
So is there going to be a Martin Griffith diary out there in the future?
Well, I did a detailed diary this trip. I'm not sure it's going to have the interest of Israel Lord's diary since he was an actual 49er, but I'm going to tell you, go out and get his diary because you could still find the landmarks that he talks about. And because of the diary, we were able to camp at his... You couldn't tell that it was exactly his camp, but you knew you were really darn close to it. So it was a real thrill to camp at I believe it was about 10 of his camps where we went on his pace for those days. And but anyway, the next slide, if we can get to the next slide, I'll show you. Here we are on the playa of the Black Rock Desert.
Wow!
And this would have been one of the most difficult stretches that the pioneers crossed because there's no water for about 30 miles. Maybe even 40 miles between Rabbit Hole Springs and Black Rock Springs.
Now, did the actual immigrants have information to know how long this stretch is going to last?
Generally speaking, they had an idea. Maybe not the first ones, but generally speaking, I think they knew it was a long, waterless stretch.
Because you see that, you think, how long is that? You don't know.
Yeah.
It's going to be 20 miles or 100 miles.
And I'm going to tell you, distances are real deceiving. That's a good point because out there, I'm going to tell you this point out there, Black Rock Point, I swear to God, it just took forever. It just seemed to be there for days. Although it was only 2 days, I think we walked to get to it. But you never seemed to get to these spots because it's just so deceiving distances out on the flat desert. But anyway, that's Jeff and I out in the heart of the Black Rock Desert, one of the highlights of our desert hiking in Nevada. And I'm going to tell you, it's just so... The thing you can't get now is probably about a upper 80s as far as the temperature the day we did it, maybe 90. Some of the immigrants came through a little earlier, so it would have been in the 90s, maybe even low 100s. But if you do that when it's cool, that is a beautiful hike. There's all these beautiful mountains around you. Jackson Mountains, and King Lear Peak is around you, the Calico Mountains, the Granite Range, and it's just spectacular. It's anyway, this was one of our very favorite stretches that we've ever hiked in the West. Mm-hmm. And if you want to go to the next slide, this is a shot of Jeff, but it just shows you how small he looks. He looks like an ant out there on the Black Rock Desert, but we're getting a little closer to the Black Rock Point out there, and that's kind of in the heart of the Black Rock Desert.
Is that the one in the middle or the one on the left?
That's the one on the left there.
On the left.
That's a major landmark for the emigrants. They're shooting for probably 40 miles from Rabbit Hole Springs. They're shooting for just to the left of that point, and there's a hot spring out there called Black Rock Spring, which we're going to hit in just a little while.
So you could watch that for 2 days before you got to that spot.
Yeah, I think about 2 days of hiking it took to finally get to Black Rock Point.
That's some serious hiking.
It is. But it was beautiful hiking. And the weather, like I said, do it in the fall when it's cooler. You're just going to enjoy it much more. And the scenery and it's not just the Black Rock Desert, it's the entire trail. It's just, you're seeing an unspoiled landscape virtually exactly like the emigrants saw it. I mean, it's just spectacular. And our next shot would be at actually, before we hit the Black Rock Spring. Now, I don't know. We told some emigrant trail experts about this, but what a coincidence that along the trail on the Playa of the Black Rock Desert, we kept finding animal fragments. Mm-hmm. And we told some people that were very skeptical. They said, oh, no, they couldn't have lasted that long. But my point would be, we kept finding these, what appeared to be oxen or cattle bones. Why were they stretched along the trail for about 4 miles on the playa? Which was the worst spot where all the wagons would have bogged down because of the lack of water, and the oxen would have bogged down there and died by the thousands. We thought, what a coincidence to find all these oxen bone out there right along the trail. But yet some people questioned it and said, well, we don't think they could last that long out on the desert. But I'd like to see a researcher up at the University of Nevada, Reno weigh in on that.
That's a curious question, because maybe they were unearthed somehow or something.
I don't know, but
it looks very flat there to have any kind of...
right.
It looks flat to me, so there was no earth over it.
Right.
But
and this is another stretch. We found an occasional wagon part, rusted iron wagon part, square nails. And so to find these bones there, we just kind of were wondering, what a coincidence. But anyway, the next shot as we go on is, this is a sunset shot. And I will tell you this about the desert, that in the fall it wasn't as bad because it was cooler out there. But in the warmer temperature, the nighttime, when that sun goes down, I'm going to tell you, I wish I was out there right now with you, Michael. I just love the beauty out there, the peace and quiet. Jeff and I might average seeing 1 or 2 people a day on this hike, and that's all we saw in 1999.
Oh, that's fantastic. So you have your own place.
Had it to ourselves. It was so peaceful and beautiful. The wind dies down, or it did for us at least, at nighttime and in the evening. It was just so pleasant. The mornings were pleasant, and just loved that camp. One of our favorite camps that we've had in Nevada.
Well, the Nevada night sky, you can't beat it. I bet you saw some falling stars too, I bet.
Yeah, we did, and there you can actually make out the Milky Way, and you're just seeing
there's no light pollution.
The heavens like you can't see in the city. Yeah,
and they seem closer.
Yes.
And you're thinking, wow, it's impossible.
Yeah, it's just spectacular. The night sky, the beauty of the mountains, just the peace and quiet out there, the emptiness, the vastness of it. It's just, you put it all together and it's spectacular. So the next shot would be of our camp scene at the Black Rock Point. And this would be the next shot coming up. There we are, our tents. We would camp out under the stars in our tents. And I think you saw in the earlier shot there where we carried all our equipment in backpacks.
Yeah, the backpacks are looking
But this was one of our favorite camps. Didn't see a soul there. We got in late in the afternoon and just had you could see the beautiful sunset we had there. And, your imagination goes wild to think of the thousands of pioneers that camped there right in the same general area that... racing across that Black Rock Desert to get to this water at the Black Rock Spring and then to camp there. So the next shot as we move on would be another camp area. This is the Double Hot Spring. And I want to warn people that there have been people that have died in this hot spring here that you have to be very careful. This is very hot, and I believe it's fenced now. It wasn't fenced when we went through, as I recall. But anyway, this hot spring matched the Immigrant Diaries exactly the way they described it.
Well, how hot is the hot spring?
You know,
if people died in it, it's pretty dangerous.
I want to say 150 degrees at least.
So you do something stupid like jump in and you're
Yeah,
dead.
watch your dogs here, though. I mean, it's a very dangerous spring that, like I said, I think it's been fenced. They've had some fatalities here that required fencing, but it's a beautiful immigrant landmark because it just matched up beautifully with the diaries. And they all mentioned camping on a meadow around this double hot spring. And Jeff and I also spent a night there, right at the same immigrant camp area, and really enjoyed it there.
When you come across a hot spring, what can you use it for? Can you like clean your clothes or?
You know, this one, it's so hot.
Too hot to use?
It was too hot.
You can't get close to it.
It's scalding. I mean, it'll scald you. It's that hot. Now, the Black Rock Spring wasn't as hot, but it's still pretty darn hot. But we did not go in them. As I recall, that was a little too hot to soak in. But be very careful about these hot springs because some of them, like Double Hot Spring here, it is scalding the water.
So you watch your dogs then?
Yeah, you've got to watch your dogs. You have to be very careful and don't take a chance. So the next shot as we move on, this is a scene of Jeff eating right on the trail. This would be on the Black Rock Desert still, the northern end. We're about a week into the hike now. And we're heading up to the Mud Meadows area at the northern tip of the Black Rock Desert. And this is a night where we just decided to eat early and camp early right by the side of the trail. So we had little cook stoves, as I can recall, cooking our dinner there. We had to carry all our water.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I'm not hearing any ranchers in this situation.
No. What we did here on the Black Rock Desert is we decided to cache water there. We also made one water cache in our main immigrant trail hike. We cached water on the 40-mile desert there. So we cheated just a little, but we thought you just enjoy the hike much more with better water. And the immigrants would have drank the spring water there, but we just wanted better water. So we cached water at Double Hot Springs. Also, the railroad tracks on the southern tip of the Black Rock Desert, we made a cache there. And I think one other one, and then that's about all we needed. And
if you have a day off or a couple days off, what part of this trip would you recommend sending people to, or where would they go for the day trip, as it were? Well,
the most spectacular part of any of the immigrant trails, anywhere in the West, really, this Applegate-Lassen Trail is the best preserved trail with the most beauty and the most history of any of the Western trails in the Western United States. And the very highlight would be the Black Rock Desert and High Rock Canyon. I'd go to do any hike out of there on any of the immigrant trails. You know, you're not going to go wrong. They're spectacular.
Well, as far as physical capability, obviously you've hiked a lot, so you're probably in pretty good shape for hiking. What level of hiker do you have to be to do this trail? Well,
if you do it as a long-distance hike like Jeff and I did, you know, I'd say that's, you know, you want to be in shape for that. It's we were averaging on this hike about 15 miles a day. But, you know, you could do it as a day hike, you know, just walk up High Rock Canyon on foot. One of the points I'd make is that it's so much more, you see so much more when you get out of your vehicle. I've noticed that when you just get out there on foot, and, you know, you might not want to do like we were doing 15 miles a day. That's kind of hardcore, and even my wife shakes her head at that, you know, and is not into that kind of hiking. But just get out of the vehicle and do a mile or so. Just have the wind hit your face and the sun hit you, and just kind of try to feel what the immigrants did. And it's so empty and remote up there on the Black Rock Desert and High Rock Canyon. It's like in a time warp up there. It's just time is frozen. Like I said, you're seeing the landscape virtually like the immigrants saw it. And, you know, if you're doing it as a backpack trip like Jeff and I, you're experiencing a lot of the same things they were.
Well, I'm sure your wife and I have really enjoyed your pictures. And let's keep on going because we're going to run out of time.
Yeah, sure. The next shot here is at the extreme northern end of the Black Rock Desert. And this is right just south of Mud Meadows. And Jeff and I, this is just showing how small you feel out there. I think you could see Jeff as an ant out there, maybe on the upper part of the road there. But this, the quality of the trail varies. Some is more unspoiled. This is a stretch that gets more off or more vehicle use. But still, it's so little used. We didn't see one vehicle on it. And it takes you through such empty country that it's still a thrill to walk it. And when we hit Mud Meadows, we went off the trail there. A lot of people go, gee, where did they get their food? They're out 18 days. We had 2 food drops on our hike on the 175-mile hike of the Applegate-Lassen Trail. One was at the Soldier Meadows Guest Ranch, and it was a pleasure to eat some real food there and to get away from the granola and the freeze-dried food for a couple of nights.
Well, what day was this?
This would have been about maybe 8 days into the hike.
You probably tasted pretty good.
Yeah, it did. It was a nice change of pace. It's a nice place up there. And, it was really nice to just pick up our food package there, get some real, down-home cooking.
Nice people.
Yeah, really nice people there. And, way out in the middle of nowhere, if you want some peace and quiet, anywhere in the Black Rock or the High Rock Desert will do it. But just a really nice place. And then the other place where we had a food stop was the Washoe County Road Maintenance Station at Via, which is, it's hard to describe, but it's generally northwest of the High Rock Canyon. And there was a really nice guy there, Dusty Ferguson. And he went out of his way. He was manning the station there. I believe he was the only one there at the time. But he offered to let us stay at his house there, which we didn't do that. We wanted it to be authentic, so we camped more where Israel Lord camped down on the meadow area. But he was super nice to let us do a food drop there, and he offered us food, and he was a hero with the, I don't know if you remember the Stolpas. They got stuck in snow one winter. This couple, took this Highway 8A. It's highway in quotes. It's really just an unpaved dirt road out in the middle of nowhere. And James Stolpa walked about 50 miles to Dusty Ferguson's house for help. And anyway, Dusty was one of the heroes who went out and rescued James Stolpa's wife and their young baby in, I believe it was 1991. So we got to hear about that story, and you meet some interesting characters out in the desert.
Well, that's what I like about getting out there. You do meet a lot of interesting people.
But anyway, let's go to the next slide, and just another shot. This is between the Black Rock Desert and High Rock Canyon, just to show some more of that great trail and empty space out there, and just phenomenal country out there. We just loved this hike. It was, we had one day that was in the low 90s. It was near, I think it was the day to Double Hot Springs there. It was kind of hot, but other than that, it was upper 80s. Wasn't that bad compared to the hike on the main trail, which was more the upper 90s and low 100s. So just you're seeing the land like the immigrants did, and one of the very, top highlights of all the immigrant trails is the High Rock Canyon stretch, which is the next slide here. And this is the part of the canyon that gives the High Rock Canyon its name. It's about a 25-mile long canyon.
It's beautiful.
It's a spectacular area. It really is. And this is a part where the cliff face is maybe 300 or 400 feet high. And I remember Israel Lord climbed up there and through the, I think it was the second cleft there that you see. And I remember Jeff and I wanted to be authentic, so we did that the morning after we camped there. And this would have been one of his camp areas there, right at the bottom of these buttresses there. So it was just such a thrill to go up there and retrace his footsteps on that little hike before we began our hike the next day up the Immigrant Trail up to the upper end of High Rock Canyon. And if you get the next slide here, we'll see the trail as it goes right by the High Rock part of the High Rock Canyon. And you can see the trail there, and just a phenomenal stretch as it cuts through the sage, and just so lonely. We only saw, I think we spent a layover day at the upper end. They have a nice spring at Stevens Camp up there, just a phenomenal area to spend a layover day, just like Israel Lord did. He spent a layover day there. And I think it took us, it was 20 miles to get from the lower end to the upper end. so we could kind of take our time in the High Rock Canyon, but just really fell in love with this stretch.
So a layover day, you just take a day off.
Yeah, we did. We took a day off, and we'll show the next slide here, and I'll show you a little about what we did. Oh, but before we leave the lower end, this is a cave that a lot of the emigrant diarists noted that where Native Americans had lived, and they noticed that there was evidence of their campfires in there.
Wow!
And a lot of the emigrants wrote their names around the rock around this cave here. And if you go to the next slide, you'll see this is one of the beautiful chiseled names that one of the immigrants from Wisconsin wrote. It looks like what, July 16th, 1852, and. So there's, maybe 8 names or so in the rock. Some are in axle grease, and
I think it says "Go Badgers."
Yeah, there you go. Go Wisconsin Badgers. And if you get to the next shot, we'll see this is some of the names there at that Indian cave in axle grease, and it's pretty amazing that axle grease stood the test of time. You can still see it out there in their names. So if we get to the next slide, we will be in the upper end of. Well, actually, this is an aerial view. I was lucky enough to be able to go up in the air one day, and this is a shot that was taken from that shot. This is the High Rock Canyon looking to the southeast, and you can see the northern tip of the Black Rock Desert out there. And I'm going to tell you, it's just a phenomenal day to not only to see it from the ground, but then to go up in the air and see it. It just really showed me how lonely it is. I mean, there's nothing out there in this country. So I just, thoroughly love this High Rock Canyon stretch. Was one of our favorites. And then the next slide, Israel Lord and another immigrant diarist we followed on this hike was J. Goldsboro Bruff, and they did a day hike. There's a beautiful spring still flowing from this place called Stevens Camp in the upper end.
It looks like water.
And this is we're looking down there. That's Jeff looking down at the extreme upper end of High Rock Canyon. And they did a day hike. They were curious like us, what does the extreme upper end look like from the top of the canyon there? And so this was kind of neat. We got as close as we thought that Bruff and Lord, we think they were in this general area right there to get their views of the extreme upper end of High Rock Canyon. And there's, as you can see, aspen trees in there, and there was wild rose, and a lot of bird life in this canyon.
Excellent. So you started to see more wildlife then.
Yeah, there was an oasis in the desert there. And, speaking of that, I was telling you a little while ago about rattlesnakes. We, believe it or not, we only saw 3 rattlesnakes on all of our Emigrant Trail hikes. That would be on our 650-mile hike of the main Emigrant Trail, and then our 175-mile hike of the Applegate-Lassen Trail. And believe it or not, they were all within, like a 20-yard radius on Goose Creek right at the very start of our, main Emigrant Trail hike. So that's the only rattlesnakes we ever saw on any of our hikes.
Doesn't sound too bad at all.
So if we get to our next shot here, this is a rock formation that Bruff drew. The Emigrant Diarist, he did these amazing sketches, and it was fun on both hikes. He did it on the main trail and on the Applegate-Lassen Trail, and it was just so much more fun to find the spots from where he did the drawings and to find the subjects of the drawings. And I think he called this his singular rock, and he had a couple of kids perched on that rock to the right there. And but anyway, that's the same rock formation that he drew.
Well, I'll tell you, Martin, we ran out of time again. So I thank you for a very special showing of the Applegate-Lassen Trail, and I'm sure a lot of people will be taking this hike after seeing this footage, and we'll hopefully have you back again on Nevada Trails. Thank you for joining us on Nevada Trails. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Appreciate it.
Enjoyed it very much.